in the park.
Okay.
No, don't record yet.
Like not turn
Don't
off
record yet.
Yeah, because you turn it off, obviously in the winter.
I did a streaming now.
Where were you? I don't think.
Some we don't, I think some we do.
The streaming blank.
That one is,
You want to turn off?
I think they worry about it freezing.
You know how to do that, right?
Good.
So I think it gets turned off.
Well, I know we put it in.
Yeah, well, I remember when you guys put it in.
Yeah.
I remember doing all that work.
Is it normally red or is it red when you click it?
And it's good, I mean, my first time you meet there to run. So it's nice that, they bring water, but, you know, you did forget. It's nice to have it.
We don't have anybody online, right? No participants.
Ryan,
So we decided what we're gonna do is, parking lot.
briefly.
And, yeah, it kind of sense, I think we ordered some, blocks, like, the heavy plastic.
So, anyway, but,
All right.
we don't
People are
have a
driving
family over there anymore. We've got
Few people have, but not
Yeah.
many of them.
my wife's sister.
Where you go get high centered and button up the asphalt.
A couple of sisters.
Yeah, I
You
think.
want to spend your last 2 minutes here, Tyler?
Nobody left in Thompson, no one left in Denver area.
If there's anything,
Yeah,
let me know.
they'll just start.
I'd like to visit the desert now. I don't want to live there.
Would've been nice to, for the whole thing, but.
There were a few extras on the list.
Yeah, a little bit of Kirby Habit, but it's not a cheap place to go visit. Do it.
Yeah, there's so much
Like, dude, especially 25 years ago, it was,
Bend area.
it was
Would
like
it-
$20 a linear foot.
Make
Probably
your
the last couple of
evening easier.
years.
I can know. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
If you want.
It's probably 50.
Tara's just gonna watch the video probably.
Yeah,
Not
someone
too
wanted to,
hard.
that's.
Not cement.
I know.
The labor.
Oh, yeah. Huge amount.
Yeah, if you're doing a big piece of cement,
Yeah.
labor's almost the same as if you're doing a little.
Yeah.
You
More
have California.
And curbs,
That's why-
all the farm work and all the,
Go find
Yeah.
someplace.
they have to put it
Nobody
so
wants
much
to
to
be
it.
here.
Stumbled
Well,
into
there's-
Westlake, did not.
But you do have.
Hey, how you doing?
Good,
how are you?
You're gonna go sign in.
Found the house and then found
I
the church.
drove, I just came straight from the
Can't
beach.
imagine living anywhere else.
3 accidents on the way, 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have enough time to go home and get changed. Okay,
And so we lived in
I just dropped me off.
Hood River and Cascade Lodge.
It's like that.
Got married.
Where do you go?
Moved to Gresham.
We have a place in Lincoln City, so we usually go there, but this time we went up to Rockaway. We wanted to go to Rockaway.
House we really liked and.
So beautiful.
I know,
It's just
when's the
been
last time I've been there?
super sunny the entire time.
Patty, can you hear
An
us?
hour from an airport.
Ryan, can you hear us?
Redmond Airport really ditched it.
Are you looking for the park for?
We got kids in Maryland,
And the other thing we could do if you want, at least along where the trail is,
so.
is we could make the trail go
Near the edge of the airport, and then we ended
if you want.
you know, just cross
Three-quarters might
people always coming through,
Which
our
we can do.
families, you know,
On the-
on 84.
On the side of the parking lot where the trail is.
Patty, can you hear us?
Trail there.
You know,
I mean, right now, there's, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know, I guess let's
The
watch
key
it.
will be what happens in the winter with the water.
So she's,
I always watch it over the
Just
winter.
say on the-
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Whenever so that it was
wow.
Higher here.
Did that.
You ready? It's gonna go towards.
All right, let's, call this meeting to order.
Yeah, I guess I'd probably wait, so,
So another winter goes by.
yeah.
We have, some people joining us online. Is that Patty?
That's Patty.
And Brian. Hi, Brian. Before we go into tonight's agenda, why don't we go around and introduce ourselves for our guests online. I'll go ahead and start. My name is Vicki Handy. I'm Chair of the Parks Board, and I'm in the Willamette neighborhood, 26 years.
Jane Forbes, Skyline Ridge neighborhood. First board member.
Chris Owens, Robinwood, been a board member for 3 years.
Yeah.
Todd Olson, in Barrington Heights, been on the board for a little bit.
Yeah.
John Lindman, Hidden Spring 6, been on the board. This is my 5th 3-year term.
Mike Perkins, City of West Linn, Park Development Coordinator and Park Maintenance.
Ken Warner, Parks and Rec Director.
And Patty?
And I'm Patty Allen, and I've been on the board for a year, and I live in Rosemont Summit.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Ryan. We'll let you talk a little bit. Go ahead.
I'm Ryan Matau, and I'm the Director of Digital Engagement with MIG. I've been a park and recreation planner and community engagement expert with the firm for almost 20 years. And I've done a lot of work around the edges of your park planning, but more directly with some of your neighbors as well. So I'm really excited to be here to talk to you today a little bit about the Community Rec Center conversation. So I think that's a little later on the agenda, so I'll be quiet for a little while.
Right. Ryan, thank you and welcome to our board. If you guys can take a look at your agenda, I think that some of the items here we can do pretty quickly. Are there any suggestions for change? And if not, can somebody make a motion to?
I move we accept it.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Patty, yes? Good. The summary notes were sent out. Were there any questions, comments, or changes that are needed?
Nope.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion to approve. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Got it. Okay, so I don't see any community members online. Oh, Tara's online. Hi, Tara.
Oh, she's not.
No, she's not?
That's me.
Oh, that's you.
Sorry.
And it's Ken in the role of Tara tonight.
Yeah. She set it up, so.
Okay. So why don't we get right into the Community Recreation Center feasibility study with Ryan and Ken.
Yeah. So as you all know, recently City Council set one of their goals to have a Community Rec Center feasibility study completed. So we have been working on that for maybe about a month. We've been getting a steering committee together, doing some leadership interviews, and working with Ryan on communication tools and different things we're going to use through the process. So I'll let Ryan give kind of a brief overview and answer questions of what this process is going to kind of look like and lay out like over the next couple months.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's great to get a chance to talk to you all early in this process. I know this is an ongoing conversation. You all have probably talked about it a fair bit, and I want to just kind of I'm glad to get a chance to introduce myself as your project manager here. Some of you may have interacted during the parks planning process with my colleague Cindy Mendoza, who is the director in charge of this project as well. So we're working from a pretty solid starting point here. We've got a lot of excitement. We've got a lot of backstory and ideas that have been generated. Because I've been doing this with some of your council members and other people, one of the things that I'm trying to do at the front of these conversations is to help set some bookends about what we're talking about. And the loose definition that we're using here is this idea that we're exploring is for a community recreation center, and it's an indoor facility that supports both the kind of social gatherings and kind of more passive events as well as indoor, more active recreation. So the key parts there are that combination of the kind of social part and the active recreation part, and also the indoor part. And then the other kind of key item in that is that unlike the prior effort to fund a big recreation center, this, as it's envisioned right now, does not include an aquatic center. So this is the kind of scaled back, but also looking forward to possibly a future that might. And so we're trying to be really open about all of the conversation that we're having, and what we're doing is we're building on the recommendations from your Parks and Recreation Master Plan to really explore a little bit more of the specifics of what that first piece of this puzzle might look like. So what kinds of activities might happen in this building? What is the community most needing now? And really getting into the ideas at this stage of what's the list of things that would be in the list of types of spaces that would be in this building. And the reason we start there is that gives us a chance to build up to what is the size of this building? What is the cost likely to be based on that mix or program? And so the output of this stage of this process is really going to be that list of what we call the building program. It's all of the different spaces that make up the larger building. And that'll allow us to take it to kind of a first stage of costing and design ideas. But I want to emphasize that for this first piece, we're not going to be creating a drawing. We're not going to have a floor plan. We're not going to have a rendering. There's not going to be a picture. You're going to have to imagine some of these things, but we're trying to get the technical pieces behind it so that we don't put out there some kind of image of an idea that is bigger, smaller, wrong in some way. And so we're taking this very incrementally. We'll take that program to council for the to kind of understand like what are the scale and the decisions that need to be made there. The big decision is, do we advance to kind of a stage 2, which would be to discuss in a more specific way with the community, like a poll, would you be willing to support this level of facility? And then the next step, which would also come back to council for decision, is how, whether or not to put that out to a vote. So the conversation in this stage is pretty open, but it does have some of those bookends. And what we're really looking to do is to narrow in on what specific kinds of spaces that we want to see. And the way that we're asking that is we're talking to community leaders, your council members, some other folks that staff's been helping us identify in kind of one-on-one conversations to just kind of dig into some of these questions a little bit more. Then we're going to have a series of town hall conversations, and those are going to be one in person, traditional community meeting kind of style, one online to allow those who can't make it to that particular community meeting to participate. And then we're going to extend that a little bit with a little more online interaction to kind of let people follow up if they couldn't make either of those meetings. And so this first phase, this phase that I'm working on right now, isn't terribly long. We're talking about getting into the fall, not next year, not further than that. But what I'm really excited about is that because we're kind of keeping this incremental and we'll have some check-in points, we'll be able to share with you and with your council kind of what we're hearing in the community relatively soon. And I think that that'll be really informative to kind of dial in where this conversation goes. And we're really here to support your community in this conversation. So I'm here, Ken's request to just make sure that any questions that you all have, any ideas that you have about, people or groups that we really need to be making sure that we draw into this, those are the kinds of things that, your expertise, the people, the lay of the land, and we want to make sure that we don't miss anything as we go forward with this idea, because it is important to a lot of people. And I'm sure that all of you, like I said, have been talking about this and have your own feelings and thoughts. When you say community recreation center, like the image that pops into your head is super interesting to me. Like, I bet there's probably as many images in heads as there are heads in the room. And so we're really just trying to build up a little bit more of a shared understanding of that. So that's my little introductory blurb. I really didn't want to overwhelm. I don't have a whole lot to report just yet, but we've got, as Ken said, a lot of stuff working in the background right now, and we've already started some of those community leader conversations. So that's my shtick. I'm here to answer questions as well. That could be really anything that comes to mind, and I'm really glad to get a chance to talk with you all.
Diana popped in.
Hi, Diana. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Diana, we're meeting with Ryan from MIG, who's working with us to explore the idea of the recreation center. Ryan, Diana is another member of the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. So,
Great.
Ryan.
Quick introduction there. Thank you for the.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was late to get on. I was having major technical user error problems logging on. I apologize.
Sorry.
We understand that quite well.
And I kept logging, going as guest. I was like, oh my God, they said I've already opened, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, I apologize.
I think we've all been there.
Okay. Thank you.
So just to kind of a little further what Ryan said, so we do have a steering committee established. We have about 8 people on that. We're still looking for a couple more members, and as I've explained, that's kind of a group of people who are going to provide input from a broad spectrum of our community at all different levels, and groups they're involved with, Rotaries, Lions, youth sports, everything you can imagine, and people that are going to help us kind of carry the message forward as we go, get input from them. We have a meeting scheduled that will be next
17th.
Wednesday, September 19th.
19th?
September, wow, July 19th. Then we'll be starting to talk about those open houses and how we schedule those. Another thing that we're working on is we've sent out already just to get a list of people who are interested in this topic. So MIG. We've sent it out twice in our weekly updates, gone out on our social media, just getting people's names and emails of people who want to be contacted when we're going to have these conversations. So that'll continue. We're going to have little business cards that we will probably have in the next week that just are going to have a QR code that, you know, you can probably even get some, and we'll be giving them out at Music in the Park and things, kind of just so people can go give us their information initially. And then as we start to develop the website, the QR code will take them to the website. So we're creating like a frequently asked questions thing that they can look at, and we'll kind of let them know where we are. You know, they'll still have gathering information. As this kind of builds, that'll be where the QR code can be developed to take them there, and they can get updated information, whatever that means. And then, like Ryan said, sometime later this fall, City Council will make a decision whether or not there appears to be support in some subjective manner, right, based on what we've done, if we move to phase 2 and start to keep going moving this forward. So, but Ryan's here, and if anybody has any questions, certainly, I know, Vicki, you had a question about virtual town halls and how do they do it, and I don't even remember the software now.
Actually, it wasn't virtual town halls, it was, what platforms you use for community engagement, and that could be pulse polls, that could be, you know, there are lots of different options that I know other cities use, and I was hoping that MIG would come in with some good technology, because our city is not good with that.
Ouch.
Sorry, it's not your fault.
So that's a great question, and I'm exactly the right person to answer that. That's actually a big part of my role now at MIG is matching up the projects to the platforms. As you know, there are many, and they kind of keep evolving, and everybody, you know, any one city might be signed up for one thing but might want to use other things. And the way that we approach it really is we keep kind of a toolkit of what we think are the best platforms for a variety of purposes and ways that we use them. We have a pretty wide variety of those to use. And the other part of that puzzle is really making sure that we don't over-rev or put too much technology in front of people in terms of requirements or the kind of speed of interaction. So we're really thinking first about what is the information that we need to collect and how do we match that up to a platform that can do that quickly and accessibly. The first piece is that it always needs to be mobile friendly, because 90+% of the people who respond to anything we do online, whether it's more of a traditional survey or some kind of other interaction, they're doing it from their phone because that's where they get that link. You know, whether they're scanning a QR code or they're getting an email, it's like that's the instant that we can grab their attention. And if they can't do it right there seamlessly, it just doesn't work. So that's a piece of it. For this purpose, for this first step of the process, we're really what the intent and what the information that we need to gather is really an extension of questions that we're asking in the town hall meetings. So we're trying to keep the kind of ask of the community the same, whether we're in person, we're online in a meeting where we can ask questions and interact, or whether we're having this kind of like non-time constrained, like little run out at the end of that. And so I'm envisioning that to be a pretty simple thing. We use a lot of different platforms for that. Right now, we're collecting those the little contact information using a platform that's called Typeform. It's a variety of things, but we use a number of online survey platforms. And the thing that I like to do is I like to really prep people with, just because we're using an online survey platform doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be a traditional survey. We're trying to create an interaction that shares some information and collects some information, and the tools that we use to do that really depend on the specific information, which we're starting to design now in terms of those town hall meetings. But we will have options in front of us. If at any point you all are like, well, you know, we'd really like this to just look a little bit more, you know, exciting or interesting, like or interact in a little bit more of a lively way, like, those are options. Those are options available to us. One of the things that we bring, and we're definitely scoped to do in this, is to help you provide some really good looking visuals around this. Not the visual of the building, but things like visuals of the timeline or visuals of how this is presented. So that's a piece that we can bring and really adds to the underlying technology. But I want to assure you that whatever we choose to use, we're really looking at some pretty tough criteria about this platform being easy to use, spitting out useful data on the back end, and being appealing to the user, the end user. So that's kind of where we come from. I would guess that for this specifically for this project, we will probably either use Typeform or a survey platform called Alchemer that we use really flexibly in a variety of tools, or in a variety of situations. It's relatively simple to SurveyMonkey or other survey platforms that you've seen, but gives us a lot of flexibility to incorporate the types of asks that we've been making to communities.
Okay, and will we have a web page on the city?
Yeah, the web page, Ken and I are working on that right now, and that'll be inside the city's architecture. But we'll help feed some visuals to help make that more interesting, and we'll definitely want to keep some opportunities. Like, regardless, there's two things that really matter, I think, when it comes to these kind of project web pages. One is that the information evolves. It's not just the same the second time you come back to it, the third time you come back to it. It actually has some updates, and so we'll continue to provide updates, and the city can help, get that into the structure of the city's website. And then the other thing is to have somewhere that you can either drop a comment, or, as it is right now, sign up for more information. Something that it's like, I want to do something, I want to get involved in this process. Like, it's not just leaving you flat and asking you to come back and check this in a month or whatever. So yeah, that's the plan for kind of the information sharing. We'll be sharing stuff on paper, we'll be sharing stuff online, we'll be sharing stuff on the city's website. And as Ken said, through social channels that are already built up, and this list, which, Ken, as of this morning, has 93 respondents now. So after just a couple of quick pushes, we've definitely grabbed some attention, some interest from community members.
Right.
I'm curious, what kind of visuals do you put up? You said you didn't want to put up any architectural plans or any sort of stuff like that. What do you put up initially?
Yeah, so I would imagine right now that the conversation is going to be about zeroing in people mostly on what types of spaces are typical in these kinds of centers. And so we'll use imagery that is of the interiors of spaces, the kinds of spaces, to make sure that, again, everybody's mind jumps to a particular thing, like their experience of a community center or whatever. And what we want to do is start to ask, like, is this what you're thinking, or is it more like this? And understand the kind of pluses and minuses of those images that show off, like, what those spaces might be and what uses might happen inside them. So it's some of the best spaces that I've seen. Might have like a basketball court that almost or all but disappears when you're using it for something else. And so it's like, you could take a picture of that space in one setting and be like, oh, that's a meeting hall. And then all of a sudden it kind of magically transforms into a basketball court. So we want to make sure that we're not misleading, but those are some of the images. The other one that we've been working on is just a visual cue for the length of time that we're talking about. So we've been working on to understand, like, there's a conversation happening right now. That does not mean that next year we're going to start building a recreation center. What we want to do is set some loose timeline dates out that we're really talking, 2-3 years at the bare minimum, before we have a groundbreaking ceremony, and we're really we want to make sure that we're setting that expectation right up front. And so what we've found in processes is that a visual of that grabs the attention and, like, maybe sinks that in a little bit differently than just reading it somewhere or just being told it. And so those are some of the examples of things that we might use. We're also integrating, of course, your branding and logo to make sure that everybody understands, this is a West Linn conversation. We're not some outside group trying to advocate for something.
Do we have other questions?
Quick question. So I really like the idea of, grassroots, asking the community, what is it? What do you think this should look like, and things like that. Ryan, as part of your analysis or report back to the city, are you going to take that information and kind of compare it to the surrounding resources? Because I know sometimes that's what happens, is that, it's like, oh, well, yeah, there's already racquetball courts or workout right across from Safeway, or, those amenities are already available. Is there going to be anything like that, or is it really this is what we heard from the community, regardless of who already has stuff out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't just say, oh, people say they would like to have this, and so there it is. No, it's really, you're right. It all exists in the context of what's going on around you, and we actually have both a local architect and a nationwide expert on indoor recreation facilities and their kind of operations on board on this team to do, like, once we have a list of the kinds of spaces that we're talking about, they're going to be able to advise really specifically about, well, how much space do you need to make that work? And how much does it cost to build that much space? And do those spaces work together in an operational kind of setting? And so we're working with Ballard King, which is the facility specialist. They've worked in your community before. And we're also working with Opsis Architecture, who's also worked in your community before and has dealt with, both firms are really specialized in this particular kind of facility. And in this stage, we're mostly using them as advisors. They're going to do some market research, just as you were saying. Who are the people in the area and what are the other resources that are kind of pulling their attention? And then we're also going to do some more specific, like I was saying, if we want to combine these kinds of spaces, how much space are we talking about? What's the flexibility there? And what will it cost to build and operate that facility? So it's gonna start narrowing down into an option that we're gonna put in front of City Council that's kind of like, here's what we think we're talking about. But for a while, there's gonna be like, here's some choices that we need to talk about. Like, are we gonna go big over here or focus on this? I'm really excited about this team. I've worked with all of the people involved, and I can't tell you, Ken Ballard is a gem. I mean, he's just he has so many personal experiences of not just like idealizing, these facilities, but actually building and running them with communities that he really knows what it takes and what it is in the operational world. And our friends at Opsis, Jim Cowledge and others, really have current knowledge about a really crazy market in terms of getting things built right now. And that's the thing that we really want to make sure that we're advising you in the best possible way, because, man, I'll tell you, the costs of everything to build have just gone up and up and up. And so we're trying to figure out, like, how do we strike those balances, and what is we want to give you as real a number as we can give you, because we want this to be an ask of the community that doesn't come back with a like, oh, we thought it was going to be this much, but it's actually that plus 50% or whatever. So I want to really emphasize that we're not doing this alone. Our expertise is largely in this planning and community engagement stage, but we have the technical experts on the team kind of working alongside us.
Ryan, I assume because all of the same players are involved, that you have access to all of the studies that were done for the aquatic center that we looked
Yes.
at several years ago.
Yes.
So, because we worked with MIG and Ken and Opsis then too, so.
Yep. And that was definitely a strategy. I mean, we're trying to make sure that we keep the same, not just the same firms, but really the same brains involved, because they do carry that knowledge forward. So that's a big part of it. And as I said, Cindy really led that effort on our side, and I worked a little bit in the background. I helped run some of the survey pieces and that kind of thing. And then, as you said, Ken and Jim both have had roles in this, and immediately we're like handing over like information that, this was what we were thinking. This is how it's changed, and we're really excited to kind of update. They want to hear first what we think the community is pushing for, and then they're going to really dive in here before long and start crunching numbers for us. So
what do you need from us tonight, Ryan?
Yep.
Is this it,
this
or
is great.
Are you looking for specific information?
This is great. I think this is about making sure that you're all aware of what we're up to, and that you can who's involved, and that how to tap into this. The thing that I would ask specifically of all of you is we are going to have some flyers, some business cards, some basically there's a link and a QR code right now that is getting passed around. Like I said, we're getting responses, helping get the word out that this is going on. We're going to get you some materials that have that link and that QR code, and we're also going to get you that frequently asked questions sheet, so that if you get asked questions, you can answer them the same way that we're answering them. And you know, it's like, and things that you can actually just hand out to people who are interested. We really want those things to be in your hands because you all, you know, you're connected to all of these conversations, and we want to make sure that that gets distributed. And then we're going to also rely a lot on your team here. Ken, you know, Ken and I are working really closely together on this. We'll be asking, we might be asking some questions, or we'll certainly be letting you all know what we're hearing as we develop that. We would hope that you would come to the town hall meetings for sure. So those are really the main asks of you for this process. Otherwise, what we want to do is keep you informed. And we want to make sure that we're not missing anything. As you said, that, you know, oh yeah, there's all these other studies. Yeah, we got those, but if there's a conversation happening in the community that maybe we aren't aware of, like helping feed those things back in will be really helpful. We just don't, right now we're in the stage where we just want to make sure we don't miss anything. And we can provide a really complete view of what the situation is to City Council so they can make a decision.
Yeah,
So you mentioned the steering committee, and I don't know if Vicki or Ken or Ryan, you can answer this. So the meeting on the 19th, is that open to the public, or is it just the members of the steering committee?
Yeah, I think the steering committee meetings are not like fully a public meeting, but they're also not a closed door meeting. It's not necessarily something that we're like actively advertising as come and talk about this with us. But I also, I guess, Ken, we haven't explicitly talked about this at this point, but the way it's been advertised has largely been one-to-one, you know, like the committee members and us, and saying we're going to sit down and have this conversation. They are going to have a role in those town hall meetings as well, and so there's going to be opportunities where the steering committee and the public are interacting both ways. And really, I think that first meeting is mostly about the committee itself. It's probably not going to be that exciting to anybody outside of that committee. It's kind of making sure, again, that they know what's going on and that they have some materials to help answer questions and that kind of thing, so that we can kind of prime them for the process that's ahead, which is going to start with a couple of meetings, and then we're hoping we'll continue on with as the council makes their decisions and we kind of have that committee starting to push forward and hopefully being really strong advocates in the community for this idea.
Okay, so you also said that there's some openings still on the committee. So how many, are you looking for more people, or how do you get the word out that you need more people, and then what's your limit and what's the vetting process for them? Or
yeah, we've been kind of we've been working with a set of criteria that are really about the variety of perspectives. Ken was rattling off some of those as we go, and probably the one perspective that I would love to hear if somebody has a suggestion on that we haven't really been able to pin down is somebody who's active in the community around aquatics, but is also active in other things and kind of sees the big picture of all of this. That one of the criteria that we're really using across the board on these steering committee members is we want people who wear multiple hats, who are connected to multiple different communities and aren't just a single, like, this is my point, and if you aren't, you know, if we aren't moving in the direction of that conversation, then we're not moving in the right direction. We've had, I mean, my ideal steering committee member is the person who like always gets called on to be, you know, a board member in 4 different organizations, some of which are, you know, completely separate from recreation or parks, and is just somebody who's very connected to the conversations happening in the community. But we don't want to forget that there's a voice in this community about, you know, don't we need an aquatic center? and we don't want to lose sight of that, because that still could be a future part of this facility, depending on how directions go and where the community wants to go. But I also don't want that to, I feel pretty strongly that it's important to not let a single issue dominate the conversation. So we're finessing that. We're kind of looking for just the right person who can kind of help us understand that perspective in a positive way.
I would speak for the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, Advisory Board, to say I think it's very important that this group stay in the loop and is set up for success to work in an advisory capacity for city council. If you do everything directly with city council, I think that it bypasses the purpose of this group. And this group has been very strong advocates and champions of this particular strategic initiative in our master plan. So I think that leveraging this group is going to be important, and keeping us up to date. You know, it would be great, you know, if there are materials or whatever, we could get copied on them. Because it's easy to get sideways on different roles. And so what I'm hearing you say is the steering committee is like a task force that you'll be working with, making sure things are set up for success. City Council's decision-making body and Parks and Rec Advisory Board. I think it's important that we have enough information and enough engagement that we can work effectively in our role as an advisory board on this issue.
I really appreciate you bringing that up, and I don't want to ignore that role. So thank you for bringing that right back up to the surface, because it is important to us. It's one of the reasons that Ken wanted me to come in here early and make sure that we knew what was going on. But one of the things that we can certainly commit to is that in some way or another, both at your meetings and in between as things are coming up, that we're making sure that you get kind of first word on that, like first knowledge of those materials as they're coming out, because you are going to be, as I was just asking, you're going to be important to helping not just get the word out, but to hear what's going on and helping us process that. And so I do want to hear that that input, and I think that we can absolutely work that into this process. It's this informational conversation is really just a first step, and I want to I think right now what we need is for you to help echo this out stronger than we can necessarily, because you are connected to all these people. That's really the first thing. But as that information is coming back, I'm certainly open to all of the ways that you can help us kind of process that information and understand, like, okay, we heard X, Y, and Z, like, what do we think that means? And we're going to take a stab at that, of course. That's part of why your community's hired us. But I would very much like to hear that through the filters of your understanding of what's going on in the community. So I would say that really calls for kind of, when we get to that place of the town hall meetings are, you know, we're kind of processing the information that's coming back out of those conversations. I think that would be a really good opportunity for us to just kind of talk again about what we hear, and of course, share that information with you. I'm happy to work with you directly. I think that the conversation going to city council, we've been very focused on, in part because ultimately they're the ones that get to make the decision, but we want you to be there in that supportive role. Like, this makes sense to us, you know, this is the direction that we think you should go. We as the Parks and Rec Advisory Board think you should go, and that's definitely part of the process for us.
Great. So I'm helping out Ken here, Ken and Tara, doing some notes as we go along.
Great.
So just to clarify, so we were all vetted by the city council. So who exactly is vetting then the board for the steering committee?
So the steering committee, one of the things I want to really emphasize, and we will be emphasizing this with the steering committee as well, is that the steering committee is not a decision-making body. We're not, part of the reason why we are forming that committee the way that we are forming it is that they are really meant to be, they're meant to be kind of a vanguard of very informed citizens who have a step of removal from the officially appointed bodies in the city. And there's a conscious reason for that, which is that at some point in this process, if this continues to go forward, there will be a point at which, you know, the official, you know, city employees and city bodies will have some limitations on what they are able to say to influence the community. And so we want to set this group up to essentially be a little bit more focused than you all are. I know that this is one of your focuses, but to be very focused on this topic and to be kind of out there saying, you know, we are a group of independent, citizens who have looked at this closely, who want you to, to be behind us, to be supportive of this vote that's going to be coming down the road if it comes. So I think that the vetting process piece is not as, it's not as intensive. It's more at the staff level, like trying to identify roles that we want to, like I was saying, the perspectives that we want to try to capture. And then it really comes down to that committee. They're going to be a little bit, we're going to be a little bit flexible about, like, well, where are they going? But we are not asking them to say yes or no to any particular decision at this point. It's really, we want them to be informed. We want them to help us do the best job that we can do in processing this information and bringing it back through the processes at the city, of which you are an important one. And then the city council ultimately is the decision maker.
Ryan, I'm the Parks and Rec Advisory Board representative on the steering committee. So it'll be my job too, to bring information back and make sure that.
We're not worried about you not telling us stuff.
Right. I can feel the lead. I'm satisfied with that.
Do you feel the connection?
Right. No, I just wanted, like a clear statement that said, Ryan, you alone, or Ken, you alone, like, you are responsible for who is organizing the steering committee, who gets on it and who isn't getting on it. So I just wanted to,
I mean,
everybody, the 79 people that signed up today to get information, can they all be on it or not, and why not? So that's clarity.
So I've been taking some notes, and let me just go over this, Ryan, and you tell me where I've misunderstood.
Sure.
So the consulting team for the rec centers, Optus, MIG, Ken Ballard, and you guys are doing the research, facilitating, leading activities, creating the reports and plans. Sounds great. The steering committee is really kind of a task force that will be working with the consulting team. Parks and Rec it's always our role to be an advisory committee for Parks and Rec. And so we'll be creating our advisory report to City Council that goes along with the consulting report, because that's our role. City Council, of course, is the decision maker. And then we have user groups and the community, and they are going to be engaged in a number of ways that you've listed tonight as kind of the stakeholders.
Yes, and I would say that the first piece of that is mostly about setting up questions and listening, and later they will be more directly engaged because ultimately they will be the voters that make the decisions once City Council has decided if they want to push that out to a vote. So there's both a informational engagement and then ultimately a decision-making engagement down the road. I'm trying to be pretty clear, and I hope that I am, about, like, there's a kind of initial engagement that we're working on right now, which kind of leads up to, and basically right now stops at City Council deciding whether or not to proceed to a next step, which is not a vote, but is polling and design development, thinking more visually, starting to build the campaign of what a vote process might look like. So there's still one more step after that where we bring back more information about the voter comfort levels and that kind of thing, and then that decision gets decided about whether or not to push this out for a formal vote. And so there's a few steps in this. We're trying to be very methodical, and that's an intentional piece. What I'm hearing, and I think I hear that in the notes too, is like, in that overall intention, let's make sure that we have built in both the time and the real engagement of this body to make sure that you're informed, that you're having a chance to process information, and can you have the information you need to be able to make the advisory report that you need to make to council.
Okay. Any other questions? Concerns?
Good.
Just for my edification, I know Ken could answer this question for me too, but do you all meet in August?
No.
Okay.
We traditionally do not meet in August, so I don't think that we're intending to this summer.
And that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I don't miss an update opportunity. And so what what I will be asking, and we'll be asking through the process, is we'll be making sure that you all have the invite for those town hall meetings. We would love to have you attend both of them. I think that the opportunity there to hear directly what people are saying, what the conversation is, and also, of course, as citizens of West Linn, you have the right to, express your opinions about this as well. And I don't think that it's not strictly a you need to stay silent and listen kind of opportunity. It's really we want to get all the ideas on the table and understand what's going on in the community.
Ryan, I think one thing that would be really helpful is if perhaps you can, or through Ken, send out an email with just the attachments of, here are the plans, here's what, if there's a communication that's going, that we are in on the communication loop and not just another community member going to the website. If there can be a push communication to Parks and Rec Advisory Board, that would be really helpful, especially since we don't have a formal meeting until September. Yep. This is going to be going pretty quickly, and I don't want the board to end up being way behind if they haven't been clicking on their website.
Yeah, that's a totally reasonable request. So yes, we'll work that into our timeline to make sure that you're informed ahead of time and have the opportunity to really sink your teeth into this. We are expecting that you're going to have a little more to say than maybe the average citizen, just because you've heard more of the conversations. You've intentionally reached out to talk to more people, and so yeah, that makes sense to me. So we'll be telling you a little bit more. The ask will be out shortly. We're talking. Ken and I are talking very shortly about specific dates on those town halls, and we're going to be pushing that out before long. So you'll have those dates in hand. And we'll get some of these materials. The frequently asked questions piece, that's really the first big information piece. We're just finishing that up, making sure that it's in a nice, clean and plain language form, not too much jargon, all that. And as soon as we have that together, we're going to give that to the steering committee next week, and we'll also send it to you to make sure that you have that handy, not because it's going to be new information for you, but because it'll be good for all of us to be kind of on the same message.
Okay. Great.
Well, thank you all for the time and the emphasis on your piece of this puzzle. I think this is really, again, I'm just really excited about this process. I know everybody else that I'm working with on this is very excited about the level of energy about this topic in the community, that it doesn't feel like a way off dream. It feels like something that's about to happen. And I think that is that's an exciting place to be working, especially for those of us like myself who often work in very long-term plans. So it's really great to hear your commitment and passion for this. And I just want to say, certainly reach out to me through Ken, and we'll make sure that we're reaching out directly to you all to make sure that you're informed as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan.
Have a great rest of your meeting. I will be available to you through Ken, as said, but I'll step out now.
Thank you very much. Okay. Is there anything you'd add to that, Ken?
I think so. I think you did a good job trying to explain it all. The steering committee is really a process we've gone through. Like he said, we want people who are connected in all different ways in our community, and it's not necessarily vetted. We're not, but it's just finding the right people kind of that are connected to all different ways. And some of them have had an interest in this project in the past, certainly. So, like I said, it's the Lions, it's the Rotary, it's school district people, it's youth sports, it's everything we can think of that is out in our community kind of to reach everybody is what their guidelines were. Cool. So, and right now we have 9. The goal was kind of 10, 15. We're still looking for that aquatics person that kind of, would be fit in there. We haven't been, I reached out to the Neighborhood Association Presidents Group to assign or nominate someone like your board did for the neighborhood associations, and they haven't done that yet, so that slot's open, and hopefully they'll do that in July, even though I've encouraged them in June, but we'll keep them informed, as another piece, obviously, but.
So Ken, would it be helpful if we kind of reach out to any friends we may have or people we know regarding the potential for an aquatics person on that steering committee?
Yeah, I mean, like, yes, absolutely. Like Ryan said, I mean, I guess we're kind of not looking for that all-in 100% aquatics person that we don't have a pool, we're going to tell all our friends, don't do this.
Yeah,
We want someone who's in the aquatics world who, because we want to keep that and be upfront that, you know, phase, the first part doesn't have a pool, but we want to look at a pool down the road and we want to hear those interests kind of, because we need to make sure that this facility has the amenities that are going to make it financially sustainable enough when we do want to put that pool in, because it's, as we know, that's an expensive piece to build and expensive to operate. So it's going to be in everybody's mind on the consulting team. So yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Taking notes here, river facility. So we're going to go through these pretty quickly as quick checks. Budget overview.
Budget overview. We've kind of summarized this, I think, for 2 months. Last month we talked about, it had been through the budget committee. It went to city council. There were no changes to the budget at all, from a Parks and Rec perspective or facilities perspective. So everything that was in there, we're very happy went through. As we've talked, no big increases, no big decreases. The projects are still in there. They did fund again, or continue, or I guess kept their promise that we're going to have another 2023 free street tree program that people have already signed up for last year. We carried them over in case they did fund, and we're getting more inquiries. So last year, what was it, 158 addresses, 308 trees we funded. So we'll be looking at doing that again this year. That's nice for the community. Other than that, like I say, not a lot of change to the budget. We're just happy that everything went through, and we can keep going with all the projects that we have planned.
Awesome. Do you have any questions from the board? Okay. Any updates on the non-motorized project?
Monday night, council approved the next phase of consulting work with KPFF Engineering, along with, they pulled in someone from MIG, arborists, hydrologists, to work on the project down at Willamette Park. So that's about a $306,000 contract that will get us to a 30% design for the non-motorized, fully accessible access for non-motorized boats. The parking lots that we've looked at, improvements to Bolt Street, improvements to crosswalks, new ADA standards for crosswalks and those things. So we'll be working with Public Works on that still. They'll be funding a portion of that. And once we get to a 30% design, that gets us to a level where we can apply for grants then through Oregon State Marine Board, who are very anxious to have a facility like this. Yeah, that's going to be actually fully accessible and not just kind of meet those minimum ADA standards.
So the next step is?
Well, the next step is a lot of studies.
A lot of studies. And that was, did you say 306,000?
About 306, yeah.
To get to 30%.
To get to 30%. Now that includes, arborist reports for the little street widening. It includes hydrology. It includes geological. It includes cultural, all those things that we need to do as we work near the river, with many.
There's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, many different areas of expertise.
Just is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm just calling it multifaceted studies for the project.
There you go.
That's a good way to put it.
Yep.
There we go.
Still build it to the.
Yeah, I know.
Awesome.
Instead of a couple of guys going, this is not a bad trail. We'll use it.
Exactly.
So I will just say, I use that area a lot. That's my place. I go put in my kayak and I go out a lot. And it is just packed with people every single time.
Oh, yeah.
I can barely even walk down that funky little path. People, it's like, last time somebody had a barbecue going on the path. They had all with kayaks. It is heavy use, and that's even when the paddle guys aren't open, it's heavy use. So I'm really excited about this project.
Good. But
Okay.
like the rec center, it's not gonna be built overnight.
That's right.
I thought we were gonna be using it by the end of summer. You guys just giggle. Okay, are there any items of interest that the board members are bringing to us tonight? Jane has two.
The first one is the West Linn City website says the Parks Board meets every other month. So that needs attention.
Really? Really?
Yeah. And then the other thing,
Haven't looked, didn't know.
the Skyline Ridge Park, so they cut down 20, 25 trees or so after the ice storm, like, because some were standing and some weren't. And we had 5 tiny little pine trees put in as a replacement, and one's already a total gone or dead.
Yeah.
So is there any chance to get more trees at the park?
Which park was it?
Skyline Ridge.
Yeah, we put some, there's sequoias, actually, they're gonna get huge.
Yeah.
And, those replace, those silver maples that were back there, those weren't great trees, anyway, but,
One's already a goner.
yeah, well, yeah.
I don't know
Keep
why.
watering and that's.
Well, it's getting, there's irrigation back there, it's getting.
Yeah, the
water.
grass
It
is
just-
green around it, so
Yeah.
this is why the one in the middle is dead and the other one's, but yeah, is there?
Yeah, we'll probably look to at least replace that one. I don't know if we can put any others in over there. It's got
Or
quite
anywhere else, because there was, all over.
yeah, I know they're tiny right now, but they're gonna grow really fast. They get big in a hurry.
Like by the end of summer. No,
Sequoias are beautiful, I love them.
Yeah, they're so
Yeah,
fast
yeah.
growing. We put some in 99 in Willamette Park, and they're like 50 feet tall now.
Okay.
And they were 6 feet tall when we planted them. I was one of the people planting them. So
Yeah.
it's crazy how fast they grow.
So, but that's it for total for the rest of the.
Well, I don't know. I don't.
Street, because all the street line ones were.
I don't think there were. I can't remember any at Skyline Ridge that were taken out street. It has a curb tight sidewalk. I think. I don't think we had any street trees there. But they're.
Well, they're not like vulture trees, but along the west side of the park. No, I can show you. This is where a whole bunch of, there was some in a line.
Oh, there were. Okay. I'm trying to think.
Because there were,
And like every.
down the side of the tennis court, and then there were about 5 in the back, right, before.
Right.
Yeah, there were the 4 big ones in the back of the
Yeah.
tennis court. Those.
So along the street on Maryhurst Drive.
No, were there a couple up
4
there?
out of 5 were taken out.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't think we had any plans to put any in. I mean, we could though. We could put some trees in. I think some of those that were put in were leftover street trees one year that we had sitting around and we stuck them up there. Yeah, kind of, yeah. But,
Ice storm said, no thanks.
Yeah, we can take a look.
yeah, we can take a look at it, sure.
Okay. Are there any other items of interest that the board has brought?
Quick question on Cedar boat ramp with the parking, so where they just walk down there. I also noticed in the paper, you got your first complaints about parking, people, I guess, non-boat trailers parking. What's the criteria for moving the bollards or removing the bollards? And so I'm just curious. I've got no feedback, but I see that people are starting to complain again. And
Yeah, that's a great question. So first thing is, we're gonna paint some curbs yellow so that there aren't cars parked where they're not supposed to, right? Because that makes it harder for the boats to maneuver, right? They park on the corners of those islands, right? That'll happen, if supposed to happen, but trying to find contractors, our streets department is actually gonna do it themselves, I think, probably the first week of August. But the bollards are a great question. We changed, right before 4th of July, so with the new system, we have 14 boat trailer spots that can be changed to automobile parking. So right before 4th of July, there was still shad fishing, but we said, well, we changed 5. So we went from 5 boat trailers, and that added 10 cars, right? We're monitoring it to see what we do next. Now, kind of informally, what we think is, midweek, all the boats aren't out there. Weekends, all the boats are out there. And we basically have a scenario, our police have been kind of monitoring it, sending me pictures. One of them has his own drone that takes pictures. And the problem is, the conversation we're having is, we don't have enough parking for either type of vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
And the question I ask them, you know, is, as people leave the boat ramp to park somewhere else, what do you want to park up there? Do you want boats and trailers? Do you want cars? Do we need to do something differently up on the street where people don't want anybody to park, even though it's a public street? We know we can't put cars maybe on both sides or a boat trailer, you know, because now emergency vehicles can't get down the street. You know, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
We're trying to work on it, and I flat told them, help me monitor it. Let's figure it out, because we can't put any more vehicles there. So, yes, will I get yelled at by one group or the other? Absolutely, I already have. Someone got a ticket, you know, and his point was that if I have a rack on top of my car, I should park in a boat trailer parking, and that's a trailer. And I said, well, that's a discussion with the judge.
Yeah, that's a good response.
Yeah.
And you're
I
the
mean-
one out there giving tickets too.
No, but I mean, but no, yeah, I know, but I mean, we want to try and make it, you know, the police don't want to be there giving tickets every day. I mean, that's not what they look forward to, so. Yeah. And the problem is, our guys can't go change those every single day.
Right.
Based on demand. I mean, it's a good concept, I just don't know. This is the first one that's kind of out there.
You know, from my, you know, unprofessional opinion, it looked like a great use of space. In other words, you made the most of the space that you had. It's an innovative approach, but then I thought about, well, somebody's going to have to be coming out here and changing the bollards, and you go to change them, but there's already boats, you know, or there's something in there, and you can't.
Well, that happened just the first day. We were the first day when we changed 5, our guys were out there like 7 something, and got to change 3 that day.
Yeah.
Well, then the next day they changed the other 2, because, you know, I mean, so.
Yeah.
And just having the staff time to, you know, because you not only do you have to change them, but now you have to change the signage, because now it's only, you know, vehicle and trailer only this way, not this way. I mean, so, you know, otherwise the tickets are invalid and the police write them, and, you know, I mean, if you come up with an answer, let me know.
Well, you know, this is an issue with a lot of our parks, and, you know, parking is you can't get anywhere in West Linn without driving to it, and
I'll say,
the park there.
every summer there's more people swimming and kayaking there at that boat ramp, which I know is not what it was intended for in the first place, but it is a great spot for kids and so forth. Water's shallow.
You know, and part of this design, you know, is tied to Oregon State Marine Board, who has built 99% of the public boat ramps in the state. You know, all the funding used to come from motorized boat fees, gas taxes. Now they are charging canoes, kayaks, paddleboarders over 10 feet. So some of the money on this grant came from their water access grant program.
Okay.
You know, so it's really, are we taking something away? You can look at it that way, but we're also providing a little equity now, you know, for those that are paying a fee in a different way. So, but this is a statewide problem. I mean, you know, with, and if I had a choice, I would separate the 2 groups completely, because they don't go well together at a boat ramp anyway. The uses are different, and the way you get your boats in the water are different, and that's why we'd love to develop, you know, Willamette better and develop Westbridge Park when ODOT is done with, you know, their project on the bridge and all the other areas that, you know, are just non-motorized, right? That's ideal if we could get there.
You know, there's that big yellow gate down at the end of the, you know what I'm talking about? That'll, I'm probably going to get skewered for suggesting that, but if you could open that up and.
Oh, you mean it goes, like up the river?
Yeah, just a temporary, gravel area or something.
Inside the water
I don't know.
resource area.
Probably it's not allowed, but.
I remember one year.
In the winter, it's underwater.
Yeah, during flood stage, one year I paddled through those trees.
But the summer is when you need it, right? For the
Yeah, no,
So you
exactly.
could do it in the summer, yeah.
You couldn't put a lot of infrastructure in there that you couldn't allow to get underwater.
It would have to
Well, you
just be
can't, the
gravel.
problem is,
Gravel would be fun.
but now you're
Not gonna go
making an
anywhere.
improvement in the Willamette River Greenway and the water resource area, and, you know, there you go,
Oil from the car.
$100,000 study.
Say the oil and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, oil dripping from the
I
car.
don't even know if it would be allowed, that.
But for the people that live in that area, you know, would they rather have a car parked in front of their house or a boat ramp? I think they'd rather have a car. They probably don't want to have either, but the bottom line is that I'd much rather have that than a trailer with, you know.
Right,
at
and
the end of
that's,
a-
you know.
Which is a huge thing.
If it keeps persisting and there's parking issues, I know last year there was a parking issue up there where, you know, one car parked on each side, and big question on signage or something, I mean, which is more of a police issue than parks, I mean, but maybe that's something that needs to be decided by someone, I mean.
Well, but there's a lot of that in that area. It's like there at the end of Mapleton, where it ends at the park.
Yeah.
You know, it's no parking on one side, but when the cars fill up, they just go ahead and park on both sides.
Yeah. You know, one thing that's changed though is, you know, a no parking ticket, a parking violation in the boat ramp last year was $30. This year it's $115.
Wow,
That's a change.
that's a big change.
Well, I mean, at $30, it was like, oh, geez,
People would just do it.
made my $4.
That's
Price
the
of
cost of
parking.
parking downtown, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, and hopefully that's a deterrent to keep the parking lots safe and that, you know, boat trailers can get in and out. You know.
Yeah.
All right.
One quick question, just
Okay.
point of clarification. I know a lot of our sites have, you know, the racks with the life jackets on them. Is that something is the parks responsible for those life jackets, or is it the Marine, or who does that?
Community citizens.
Nobody's responsible for
Private
those.
groups.
Those are
Okay.
just a courtesy.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, if you're responsible, then you would be liable too.
yeah. If people leave them, and it's just community citizens.
Okay.
Of course, I had a kayak taken.
Pretty good deal.
People use them? I don't know, or they?
I have seen, you know, somebody is like, oh my gosh, I forgot my
Yeah.
thing, and they
The
take it.
orange
put it
ones,
back.
the orange K-Pop ones, you don't see too many of them getting used sometimes.
Those are desperation.
Yeah, but I know there's others that are left there, and there's just, because there's different numbers at different times you go by, I'm assuming that some of them are out. People are using them.
They probably don't smell too good.
Okay. Are there any other items from the board of interest?
Yeah.
Fine.
I have a few
Oh,
things.
I'm so sorry, Diana.
That's okay. That's okay. I'll try to make it quick though. So first of all, regarding parking, that Mary S. Young lot is fabulous. I hadn't seen it right after you guys, it was completely finished, which I know it still needs some curbs and other things, but I'm just so impressed about how great it looks and how functional it is. So many more cars, and it's such a busy park that it was a great addition. So anyway, kudos on that. And then also, my neighbor, Doug Goebel, I think communicated with you, Ken, about some gravel behind the path, you know, between the Wild Rose and Cascade on when you go between the two neighborhoods
Yeah.
there, where that gravel path is. And I just happened to be talking to him 2 days ago and he mentioned the gravel, and I said, well, I'm going to be in a parks meeting. So anyway, he didn't know if it was going to be continued all the way up the path, like at least to the edge where it ends, heading east, or what. So I'll just throw that out there, that if you do have extra gravel and there is time, I think.
Yeah, I know there was a real wet spot there.
Yeah.
That I think I got gravel last year, like a 30-foot section, kind of with new gravel.
Okay, well, so that was the other thing. He said, what is causing all that moisture there? Because it can be rain-free for 60 days, and that's wet back there and full of mosquitoes. Is it a natural swale that was just never dealt with well when they did that
It could be, yeah.
Or is there possibly a home that has a severe irrigation issue?
Could be that too.
I mean,
It could, we can maybe try and take a look, but it could be, you know, sometimes people just direct water off of their property. So if they water their lawn a lot and they've set it up to just drain into the creek area, I mean, it could be anything.
I didn't know if you would even know, Mike Perkins, because you kind of were involved in that. Well, both of you were when that was all done. So I'd be curious if you guys ever go back there and look, because Doug and I are shocked at how muddy it is almost constantly with water there.
I haven't been back there in a long time, so I'll have to
But
take a
it's
look.
only about a 20-foot section. It's really weird. Because I walk back there, I
Yeah,
have, in the past couple of months, 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more, sometimes it's 50, 60 feet. But anyway, then that brings me to the next point is, we have either swifts, multiple nests, or bats and swifts in our chimney, which we don't have caps on either of ours. We've lived here for 25 years, no cap. Obviously, we will get one at the end of the season with whatever animals in there decides to depart. So I just didn't know, I had a man out here and he said that he's gone to 6 homes and found swift in the chimneys in the last week. And it's a late migration, I guess. But anyway, I just didn't know how you guys felt about that. They're going to come back and do a true scope because there's an inkling that there may be some bats in there too. Closed our flu, but I just didn't know how you guys would feel about bat boxes in those evergreen, those big red cedars back on that same walkway, or if we don't want to encourage bats.
Well, bats are good.
I think that's, yeah, I
We
think,
have a lot of that.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with it. The Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife offered me a couple bat boxes if we do have bats, because obviously I don't want them in my chimney. So, or my attic. So that remains to be seen, but we've definitely got bats flying around here. And I think it's because of those mosquitoes, because of that swale or that irrigation leak. So this is all tied together. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there and just see what you guys think. I don't know if Parks and Recs ever even puts up bat boxes like in the different parks. Or if
usually like through like an Eagle Scout project, they've done stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
okay.
Pretty wimpy project.
well, they build them and put them up.
Yeah.
That's still a
We have to
wimpy
climb up the tree.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of Eagle projects.
We don't decide what qualifies.
Some of them are much more involved than others.
Yeah,
I know the
As you
qualifications,
know.
I don't know if that would qualify.
it's good ones for a kid that needs to hurry up and get
I
there.
They
just
got a
didn't
week.
know if you guys ever get phone calls though about bats. I'm just curious in Westland.
I haven't heard of, I mean, I don't, no, I
Has
haven't
anyone
heard.
else seen them flying around at
Yeah,
dusk?
yeah, it's all over our neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah.
And owls,
We have bats every night.
Yeah.
Okay.
circle of life.
Just not in
Cat
there.
loves them.
Those are bats and the
Depends on
owls.
what patch of bugs are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not my
Okay.
chimney.
Okay,
Well, if
thank you.
If there aren't any other items from the board, how are we doing on the running trails? John, everything going okay?
Great.
Awesome. I have to say, I've been at a number of our parks here recently, and I think everything looks really good. It's looking good. Good maintenance. So, let's, summer event update and recreation update. We had a
Really quick.
thing over the weekend.
Yeah, really busy summer. Summer camps are going great, 60 to 75 kids each week, 2 different parks. The clean house, we held our first with our little, I guess I'll call them a committee there. We had our first musical event with Mark Hansen and Greta there, June 16th. Had like 61 people there, bought tickets, the wine tasting, and this was kind of that first exploration into what are we gonna do at the McLean House, how many, working with the neighbors and kind of what's tolerable, what works there. We'll schedule 2 more, one in September, I think one in October, and kind of expand numbers just a little and see how it works and see where that goes with the McLean House. As Vicki alluded to, we had an old time fair this past weekend. Staff did a great job getting the park ready. They rebuilt our pond, put a new pump in it, rebuilt counters at the shelter, put up lights, did everything we asked of them. As the date was changed, things came up on Friday with baseball tournaments we didn't completely understand and had to go borrow bleachers from somewhere else and all kinds of things that just happened.
School
It was
district was
great.
nice not to loan us.
Yeah, school district was great, loaned us some bleachers from Athey Creek. Everything at the fair went great. It was well receptive. We had our carnival company, a new carnival company that most people really liked. There was obviously some people that don't like the carnival, but that's okay. They did $72,000 in ticket sales in 2 1/4 days. So we're hopeful that we liked them. hopefully they liked us, and we'll come back next year, because we don't have many options for carnivals. Music in the Park starts the end of the month, July 27th, runs for 5 weeks up at Tanner Creek. Movies in the Park start August 5th. I think that's it for what's going on this month for summer events.
Cool.
We'll pop into recreation. Like I said, we have no less than about 6 or 7 summer camps happening each week that are contracted, whether it's sports camps, theater camps, AWOL dancers down at Marius Young. They're going very well. Participation rates are high, which is good. Our Gill Community Center is using their bus this, all summer, taking our seniors out to different areas, wineries. They're going out to different outdoor plays, all kinds of things, having fun there. I think that's it. I'll let Mike talk a little about what's happening in park projects and kind of our park maintenance, so I don't overwhelm you with all my words.
Park maintenance, we're just trying to keep up on everything. It's, everything's growing and, keep things looking good. We're up today at Tanner Creek Park trying to get the fields a little greener. The ground up there is so hard. I don't know if you guys been out there, off season, how soft it gets, and then the summer it just turns to concrete. So that might be a good.
Mike, it's like clay hard, you're right, and
Yeah.
it's soggy.
So we're out there with a slicer today, trying to get some holes in it and trying to get some water down into the ground there, because the irrigation's running, but it's not getting down into the soil. So we're gonna try some things there. So just generally.
The houses.
What's that?
I'm sorry, I'm teasing. I said it's all going to the path behind the houses, but I'm.
Yeah, that might be a good future project, though, to see if we can do something about the drainage up there, and then we can start to improve the soil up there possibly, but. Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, you can't plug it like a golf course because it's not soft enough.
Yeah.
You can plug it and go down this pipe.
Yeah.
It doesn't do a thing. I mean,
I know.
you see the holes filled with water.
The tines on the
Because
slicer.
you start digging down and it's clay that's,
Music in the Park
unbelievably deep.
with spikes, with cleats.
That's right, everywhere you're in golf
Aerate.
shoes.
There you go, Aaron.
To go on what Mike, they've also finished up Eagle Scout project with new kiosks at Robinwood Park, our kiosk at Marylhurst Heights Park. We've started getting ready to install some bike racks at parks. Those are being purchased. The Marius Young parking lot, the wheel stops that we need, I think we've purchased 65 of those to put those in, so people don't drive up the edge of the asphalt and just crumble it. They're starting to get ready to plant those gardens, the water gardens down there at the end of the parking lot. We'll plant those with.
When are you gonna plant those?
Well, they'll probably do it this fall.
Like October, yeah.
Wait, yeah, okay.
We're just starting to have a conversation on.
I mean, you don't wanna do it till Mother Nature's
No.
gonna rain in or it won't survive.
No, just, and then just regular park maintenance, like Mike said, just, the 2 maintenance workers that we gained a year ago, I think are starting to make a difference in what we're able to do, and I think our park maintenance staff has figured out, once they've been here a year and through half of the summer and everybody knows what they're capable of and where we send our mowers and things. We got a new mower coming.
Came today.
It did come today?
Yeah.
So trying to make sure they have all the tools they need to do a great job. Bigger projects,
What else do we have?
bigger projects, Historic City Hall is getting ready to get building permits, which would be bid, which is not a park project, but we'll get going. The non-motorized boat is going to be a big one, working with that consulting firm. We're starting to take a look at what small things we can go in the parks, along with the bike racks and how we can, we're looking at picnic tables. Our parks are becoming more crowded. People want to sit and eat, and where we can locate picnic tables, and kind of just some of those basics as the parks evolve and things, and what that looks like. Oppenlander lawsuit was supposed to go to court on June 27th. It got delays, it did not go to court. The way I understand it is they couldn't find a judge to do the court, but they've assigned it to a judge who is going to put it on the calendar, which means it could happen sometime in the next
2 years.
well, I mean, they've kind of projected late fall, so
Okay.
we just don't know. So that's just kind of out there. Other than that, I suppose some of you may have heard, or maybe all of you heard, that I will be retiring this fall. So they have published, or they've advertised, we'll try and get a replacement on board, in the near future, so we can have some overlap and knowledge dump, whatever that means. Every park has a personality and things that, need to be somehow passed along. Because, I don't know, Mike's been here a long time, we have a couple guys been here a long time, but, parks have lived their own lives, and we need to make sure information gets passed along. That Chris is gonna call about the bridge, and Jane wants trees, and John builds trails, and all those things, so. I think
That's
all.
unhappy news. We're sorry to hear that, and happy for you.
Yeah. It was a tough decision. There were some mitigating circumstances, but
Breaking up with the city.
breaking up with the city
Okay.
amicably. I have offered to help them out as long as I can.
That's awesome.
Whatever they want from me, even post-retirement for a while, if that helps them.
You can do like Worcester and stick around for,
7 years?
yeah.
No.
Yeah, he stuck around for a long time.
He was part-time 7 years.
Yeah.
No, I talked to them about the community rec center project and some things, if they see a value in helping out to carry that forward as someone who just knows people in the community, and if they want that, that's great. If not, that's okay.
Okay.
So we'll see. Good.
Oh,
Oh, we're gonna miss you.
Mm-hmm.
yes. Do we have any items of interest or feedback or direction from city council?
No, the only thing they said, they approved on the consent agenda our new contract with the non-motorized, and they just basically want to be updated like
Okay.
everybody else. So as that kind of moves along, we'll keep them updated, keep you updated,
Okay.
where it's going and what it's doing.
All right. So, our next meeting is, scheduled for September. No meeting in August. So we have a little bit of a break, and in September, we start, taking a look at, what happened over, we kind of do a little bit of what went well over the summer, any suggestions going forward. And of course, in September, a big part of our agenda will be progress on the consulting team for the rec center. So we'll have a very robust September agenda.
No problem.
Is there anything else? So tonight, I took notes on all the stuff Brian said and our discussion. Hopefully you can use them.
I'm sure it'll be a
Obviously,
great
make any changes
benefit.
that you want.
We'll let your board make changes. We'll just cut and paste.
Anything else from the board?
It's all good.
Vicki,
Yeah.
is that meeting September 14th or 7th in September?
It would be the first Thursday, second Thursday, sorry. So it would be the 14th?
14th? Okay.
Patty?
Yes.
Did you want to fill the board in on the success of Westland baseball at your state tournaments? I heard a rumor.
I'm actually not on the board anymore for
Oh,
Westland.
No.
I didn't
However,
mean to put you on the spot.
oh no, that's okay. I stopped being on the board last October. But I have two sons who are in the regionals. But I think 9-year-olds all the way up to 14-year-old teams all are going to regionals. So what that basically means is that we won our state tournaments here in Northern Oregon. And for me, as it impacts for my two kids, I have a 13-year-old team or 13-year-old that's going to Ferndale. I leave Saturday. That's near Canada in Washington. And then my 11-year-old is going to be going to Eugene for regionals. But yeah, Westland did really well for Cal Ripken and Babe Ruth regionals for
I think
baseball.
it was 6 different age groups or teams, right, in one state, if I've heard.
Yeah, 9U to 14U.
Congratulations.
One of the reasons that the high school does so well is the baseball program. And the guys
Yeah.
that won their second year in a row had played together since they were in third or fourth grade.
Yeah.
Makes a
Yep.
big difference.
Are those,
Yes.
there's classes through the Parks Department, or?
No, it's through Westland Youth Baseball. I forgot she was on the board. I wanted her to toot their horn, but.
Oh, no, I'm very, I'm still enmeshed in lots of it.
You got a couple years left.